Can you feel life moving through your mind? Ooh, looks like it came back for more. Yeah. Feel time slipping down your spine. Ooh, you're trying to ignore. Yeah.
What can be said about the RPG genre? What once started as a new and simple battling system has now exploded into a genre of near infinite applications and interpretations. The RPG genre is often associated with having some of the best aesthetics and storylines out of any video game genre, and they've gained a massive following as time has gone by. And we're here today to honor this genre by counting down the best of all time. Now, before I continue, there are 3 things that must be said. First, the order of this countdown was determined by a general vote. I had no personal input on the outcome, so don't complain to me if you disagree with one of the games on here. Second, in order to keep this list more concise, I limited the voting to only classical RPGs, or RPGs with a turn-based battling system. Some people were confused about why I made this restriction, but I'll just give it to you straight. Had I opened the voting to all RPGs, people would have voted for way too many games of way too many varieties for there to be a clear winner. I apologize to those of you who would have liked to have voted for Kingdom Hearts or Xenoblade Chronicles or other games of the like, but I had to do what I had to do. Third and last, while the voting was completely open, the actual list will implement the 1 per franchise rule. Otherwise, a few franchises would have completely dominated the list. So, you're all probably bored now and ready to get on with the I always said that RPGs are better on handhelds. With 15 votes, Golden Sun Dark Dawn. Let me tell you guys, I was very surprised and very happy to see this game make the list, even if it is so low. The game was always one of my favorite DS games, and was the first game I can recall that brought me into fantasy-style RPGs. The game takes place 30 years after the events of the Lost Age. You play as Matthew, descendant of Isaac, along with a ragtag team of friends and allies, including a prince, a priestess, a son of a pirate, and a half-beast. Their job is to stop the evil Blados and Chalice from using alchemy to spread chaos and to discover why synergy, or, as you would know it, magic vortexes, have been appearing around the world. On your quest, you'll journey through a number of unique and interesting landscapes, including the Land of the Beasts, an ancient temple in ruin, and a number of beautiful towns and cities. You'll explore dungeons, solve puzzles, battle monsters, all that good stuff. But you might be thinking to yourself, this sounds like every other fantasy RPG ever, and you'd be right for the most part. However, there are 2 mechanics that make this game stand out: the synergy system and Jin. Synergy, like in the previous games, is the ability of certain individuals to channel power of one of the 4 ancient elements into a physical form. In other words, benders. That's right, this game is pretty much the closest thing we ever actually got to a good Avatar game. Jin works a bit differently though. Throughout the overworld, you will encounter elemental creatures known as the Jin. You can harness the power of these Jin to do some pretty wicked looking stuff! Both Synergy and the Jin system are used constantly both in battle and in the overworld to solve puzzles, defeat enemies, and customize your team's stats. The further you go in the game, the more power you get and the more awesome attacks you can unleash. And with more than 60 Jin in the game, there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of replay value. Sure, the game was pretty easy, but I don't really see that as a hindrance. In fact, it actually works in the game's favor. Because the game is easier than your average RPG, level grinding is kept to a minimum, and it makes the game a good level entry choice for people who are just getting into the genre, like I was when I first played the game. But enough about gameplay, let's talk about graphics, because obviously graphics are the greatest thing in the entire world. Seriously though, I'd go on record saying that this game has one of the best graphic systems on the entire DS, and where it truly shines is during combat. I mean, really, just look at it! Look at it!
I want all of you to look at it!
For the DS, having character models and animation this detailed and realistic is unbelievable. Also, I really should mention the music. It's not the best soundtrack in the world, but it definitely has its standouts, such as Ascent to Destiny, World Map, and of course Golden Sun. The number one thing I love about this game though is the puzzle solving. A la Zelda, much of your progression in the game revolves around solving puzzles in order to advance. These puzzles can be quite boggling at times, but never once did I feel like quitting or looking up a walkthrough. It's difficult to explain in words, but the game does a great job of giving you a sense of what to do in these situations without flat out giving you the answer, which is something I greatly admire in this game. And ultimately, that's what carries the game's success. It's a little repetitive, sure, and the story's a little simple, but the incredibly skillful puzzle elements, fun characters, and beautiful design work keep you coming back for more. If that's the sort of thing you love, then Golden Sun Dark Dawn is a must-have for your collection. Don't you just love one-hit wonders? With 17 votes, The Legend of Dragoon, a PlayStation 1 classic that is widely beloved and yet has never seen another iteration. Despite its obscurity in that nature, this game has amassed quite a following and is now considered a cult classic in many circles. This game stars Dartfeld. He's having a pretty rough day. His parents are dead, his hometown is destroyed, he got attacked by a dragon, a freaking dragon, and his friend just got kidnapped. Now it's up to him to get Shauna back and take his revenge on the evil that did all this to him. Along the way, a number of colorful characters join Dart on his quest, like Lavitz, a noble and formidable knight, Haschel, the most wickedly awesome old guy since Mr. Miyagi, Rose, a mysterious girl who knows all there is to know about the Dragoon culture, a king, a dancer, and even Gore from Darkrift. Obscure video game reference for the win! I don't know about everyone else, but for me, it's these characters that truly make this game. Every single one of them has an interesting and relatable backstory to go with them. They have a great camaraderie and some brilliant character moments during the game. And this is ultimately a group of people who grew as individuals, grew as a team, learned from their mistakes, and who drove the story rather than the story driving them. This is one of the few RPGs I've played where I've genuinely loved every single main character the game had to offer, and it really gets you vested in the conflict at hand. But speaking of conflict, what's a game with good characters without good gameplay? I don't know. What do you call a sandwich without bread? During the game, you and your party will travel all throughout the land of Endiness, helping people along the way and gradually tracking down the source of all these evil happenings. Whilst doing so, you'll battle monsters, ghosts, and various other enemies. But as usual, you can't just rush in and kill them, you have to wait your turn. Hey, just because you're hacking someone to bits doesn't mean you can't be polite.
You shot me!
Yes, Rodney, I shot you, and I said I was sorry.
You shot me too.
I'm sorry for shooting everyone.
But despite my last statement, The Legend of Dragoon actually implements a few elements into the combat that were quite revolutionary for their time. For one, there's the addition system. For certain characters, you can increase the power of their attacks with a little good timing to pull off some very powerful combo attacks. The Legend of Dragoon wasn't technically the first RPG to do this sort of thing, but it's the first I know of that really pulled it off well. Also, there's the Dragoon system. Later on in the game, each character will gain what is known as a Dragoon Spirit, which allows them to transform into a more powerful form called the Dragoon, which has increased physical, defensive, and magical stats, but also prevents guarding or using items in battle, so using it has mixed advantages. Again, there was Again, this was very unique for the time, as it gave you more than one way of handling a situation in the game, again increasing its replay value. Your first time through, you might use the Dragoon form to make quicker work of enemies, but as you get more experience, you might try fighting without the Dragoon form and relying more on your wit and skill. Other than that though, there's really not much else to say about this game. The graphics are nice, the environments are colorful and diverse, and the music is just okay. But for a PlayStation 1 title, there's a lot of content, a lot of heart, and a lot to keep you playing. If you haven't had the opportunity to play this game yet, I'd highly recommend it. It's available on the PlayStation Network for only $5, so go download The Legend of Dragoon and experience it for yourself. Why, Japan? Why do you torture us so? With 24 votes, Mother 3. Now, before I begin, I should let you know that this is the only game on the list I have not yet played. And the reason for that is actually pretty sad. In case you're not already aware, Mother 3 is unfortunately one of those gems of a game that somehow didn't make the jump over here to the West. As a result, there are only two ways for people like me to play this game. Either you have to get the Japanese version, which isn't ideal since, you know, I'm not exactly an expert on reading kanji, or you have to emulate the game with an English patch, which isn't really my style either. For these reasons, I regrettably haven't gotten the opportunity to play this game yet. However, I have seen English walkthroughs of the game, and I've played its predecessor Earthbound, so I think it's safe to say that I can make some decent judgments about it. I apologize for that lengthy bit, but I have to take special precautions in this case to make sure people understand why I'm talking about Mother 3 despite having never played it. We all know how well that worked out last time. Anyway, from what I've seen and heard, there's a whole lot to love about Mother 3. The game takes place in the Nowhere Islands. Porky Minch and his Pigmask army have invaded the land and are using new technologies to rebuild it in Porky's image. Through a series of events, it's up to Lucas and his family and friends to stop Porky Minch from taking over the world. Insert Street Fighter movie reference, blah 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 blah. The game takes place over 8 chapters, where you take control of different characters and explore all throughout the land of the Nowhere Islands, fighting living yams, flying mice, walking tombstones, and pink slime. Well, it certainly has some original enemy design. Well, defeating those enemies is just the same as always in the Mother series. Your party of up to 4 characters attack an enemy one at a time and can use a variety of physical strikes, PSI moves, healing, the classic sneak up from behind, the usual stuff. However, a mechanic unique to the Mother series is the scrolling health meter. In most classical RPGs, the damage taken from an attack is removed from your health meter all at once. However, in Mother 3, it takes a while longer, and you can still attack even when the meter is still scrolling down. A move that would potentially finish your character off can be saved if you use a heal move in time. This can make the game a bit easier if you just pay attention. Another feature unique to Mother 3, even within its own series, is the music combo system. For some attacks, you can increase the potency by tapping the attack button to a certain rhythm unique to each enemy. That's right, it's Mother meets Guitar Hero, yeah! But the thing everybody really seems to love about this game is the storyline and characters. Of course, you've got Lucas, who I've talked about before and even named the most depressing character in video game history. But there's also your cowboy father Flint, the suave guitar-playing thief Duster, and your monkey partner recently freed from slavery, Salsa. While Lucas is the main focus of the story, and yes, he is a very emotionally compelling character, I still think that the side characters deserve to be mentioned. As for the story, let's just say I totally agree with the consensus. It's not the most complex story in the world, and it doesn't make a whole lot of logical sense half the time, but it's an emotional thrill ride, and definitely one of the most passionately written stories I've seen in a while. It's a wonderful bit of writing that every gamer should experience. Now, if only HAL of Japan would release this game, maybe everybody could! But I digress. Mother 3 seems to be a fantastic game with brilliant storytelling, a charming quirk, and one of the best sounding soundtracks on the Game Boy Advance. If it ever gets re-released in the West, I'd definitely check it out. Or you could always just emulate it, but who really does that?
Me! Well, you're a nerd!
Hey, what do you get when you cross Kid Icarus with Hercules with an RPG?
The actual resultant would be a vector that couldn't be described in just one expression.
Shut up, you're ruining my fun! With 30 votes, Dragon Quest IX: Sentinels of the Starry Skies. I can't believe I almost forgot about this one. Thank God for the Green Scorpion's top 10 whip wielders list, otherwise I might never have remembered this franchise and this gem on the DS in particular. In Dragon Quest IX, you are a Celestrian, this world's version of an angel, who is just about to gain entrance into the realm of the Almighty. However, before you can get there, a powerful force destroys your route up, and you are cast aside into the world of mortals with many of your powers gone. Now you have to find the other Celestrians, and make your way back up to the realm of the Almighty to discover and stop the source of the destroying force, with some help from the humans. The gameplay in this game is pretty standard. In the overworld, travel from place to place, searching for various items in areas, and engaging enemies through encounters. In combat, select an attack for each party member and watch the action unfold. You can do damage, use magic, increase stats, heal, go Super Saiyan, you know, the usual stuff. Many people believe this game to be the most difficult in the series thus far, but it never gets too overwhelming. Enemies can be taken care of without too much hassle, and they give you a decent amount of experience for defeating them. Bosses, however, can be very frustrating at times, but also can be just as much fun. Except for the final boss, he kinda sucks. One feature of this game that I really enjoyed was that all your characters are totally customizable. You can change your character's appearance, weapons, armor, and even their class after a certain point. While it's certainly not the first RPG to do this, Dragon Quest IX was clearly designed with this customization in mind. The game manages to be very open-ended so that any team can defeat any foe, with a bit of prior thinking and strategy of course, and there isn't one all-powerful way to go through it. But as per usual, gameplay is not as important when it comes to an RPG. Let's look at the story of the game. While it's not quite as emotional or passionate as that of, say, Mother 3, it's a very well-written story with some decent twists, good build-up towards the climax, and it does make logical sense most of the time. Well, as logical as you can get in a game about angels. In terms of music, it's just okay. It's nice to listen to, but I didn't find any of it particularly memorable. The characters are also a little on the meh side to me. Maybe it's just me, but none of them ever felt that compelling. But even that's just up to opinion. However, there are a couple of things this game I really do not agree with. Like I previously mentioned, the final boss is a huge letdown. There was so much going for it story-wise, but it's actually a really easy fight. All you need to do is get two party members up to high tension and deal a couple of big blows with them to win. But at least the ending makes up for that a little bit. Another thing that got annoying very quickly was the experience system. After defeating an enemy, the experience points are distributed so that the character at the highest level gets the most experience. This is helpful for leveling up your strong characters, but your weaker ones get left in the dust very quickly, and frankly, they just end up dragging your team down. But whatever, no game is perfect. In conclusion, though it does have its fair share of flaws, Dragon Quest IX delivers a solid experience. I probably wouldn't put it in my personal top 10, but I can definitely tell why it ended up as number 7. For those of you out there who are still on the fence about purchasing a 3DS, why? With 40 votes, Fire Emblem Awakening. Wow, it's amazing just to see how much of a comeback the 3DS has made so far. We went from a system with little to no original games to the must-have handheld of this generation, thanks to games like this. In my personal opinion, this is the greatest Fire Emblem game ever to have been released here in the West, and obviously a lot of you agree. 40 to be exact. So just what is it about this installment that puts it on this list? Well, that's what I'm gonna tell you. I mean, that's kind of the whole point. Let's start as usual with the gameplay. For those of you who don't know, the Fire Emblem series are a series of tactical RPGs, meaning that they combine styles from both the standard RPG genre and the real-time strategy genre. Basically how it works is that the combat comes in two phases. In the first phase, you can move your characters around the battlefield in order to set them up for an attack or to prepare defense. If you choose to encounter an enemy, you must select a weapon or item from your arsenal, then both you and your opponent will attempt to strike each other down. In the second phase, it's the enemy's turn to do the same. Like other RPGs, once an enemy loses all of their hit points, they are defeated and you are rewarded with experience. However, unlike most RPGs, once a teammate is defeated, they're gone for good and can never be recovered. Never! Well, actually they can be, but I'll get to that in a second. This permanent death system ensures that you can't play the game too recklessly, and effectively strategizing your attacks is more important than ever. Fire Emblem Awakening maintains this style of gameplay, but adds several features that allow it to stand out from previous titles. One major change is the duel system. During combat, by moving a character onto the space of another character, those two characters can join forces. In the next attack, the second character will assist the first, getting in some extra damage, making it more interesting and less tedious taking down bulkier opponents than in the previous games. Another major improvement from previous games was the inclusion of different difficulty settings, and you can even turn the permanent death system on and off if it's getting you too much trouble. This makes the game a great selection for any 3DS owner, whether you're a Fire Emblem fan or not. Personally for me, normal was boring, hard was super fun, Lunatic put up a fight, and I still to this day have not defeated Lunatic Plus. I mean, have you seen this mode? If you're not totally focused and on your toes, you are 100% screwed! To anyone who can complete this mode without rupturing a blood vessel, I'll personally hire the Cloud Runners to give you a well-deserved salute. But wait, this is the 3DS game. That means killer presentation! Fire Emblem Awakening looks simply outstanding for a handheld, with vibrant colors and settings, as well as a superb soundtrack with tons of memorable tunes. It still blows my mind how much the 3DS is capable of. As for the story, I'd say it's currently my favorite from the franchise. It does suffer a little bit from its basis in amnesia, but it's not as bad as some other uses of amnesia I've seen. And let me just say that the last few hours will have you glued to your screen in ecstasy. And that's all I can really say about it for now. Fire Emblem Awakening is a great addition to the franchise, and a great showcase of what the 3DS can do. It has unique and challenging gameplay, phenomenal presentation, and it has a very grand scope to it. If you've been avoiding this series or the 3DS, this game might be enough to change that. Give it a try and see for yourself. Or just shut your yap and let it be. Whatever's easiest for you.